My fiance wants to ban my son from our wedding because he doesn't want his friends to know that he's marrying a single mom, and I'm not sure what to do. I've been with my fiance for 1.5 years. He just proposed and our wedding is in 4 months. His family is prominent in the local society scene. They have several businesses around and are major donors to local politicians and churches. I have a 5-year-old son. I married his dad, but the marriage was annulled a week later. His dad has partial custody, but he lives with me most of the time. My fiance and his family have a lot of friends that are people who are often invited around to big occasions, such as weddings and other events. They don't know that much about our lives, except what my fiance tells them. His family, of course, knows that I have a child. While they are nice to my son, they told my fiance that they feel uncomfortable with the fact that I've had a child so young and the fact that my previous marriage was annulled, so in their eyes, it just makes me look even worse. So it first started off with them saying that we should never mention that I ever had another wedding ever, and then that immediately turned into, well, why should we tell anybody that she is a single mom? Nobody will ask probably, so there's no point in giving out unnecessary information. So far, even his close friends that he goes out to lunch with, or even plays tennis with every week, have never met my son. I don't have my son on any social media profile, nor do I bring him out to any of our date nights in public, so nobody really knows in that circle, especially since we didn't move in together until he proposed. However, now the topic of my son has become a problem again with his very devout parents. My fiance sat me down today and actually asked me if we could drop my son off at his cousin's house 45 minutes away the day before the wedding and let him have a fun long weekend there. I told him that I wanted my son to be a part of the wedding, especially since my soon-to-be nieces and nephews by marriage are going to play parts in it. My fiance said that a lot of his society friends are older people and judge others harshly, and that he loves me, but he doesn't want there to be social media comments about him marrying a single mom to spoil our day. He said that he didn't introduce my son to his closest friends because we were dating at that point, and there was no need for them to know, but they will be respectful about it. However, our wedding would be featured in a local newspaper, and the current mayor and well-respected pastor will be coming to it, so he begged me to just leave my son out of the wedding. He apologized for how this came about and says that he regrets letting this evasiveness go on for so long, but there's no way to properly explain why I have a 5-year-old boy that they were not told about. I got pretty angry because I suspected that while his associates tend to be rather gossipy and straight-laced, that at least part of the reason was because my fiance could not get used to my son and always refers to my ex with contempt and called my previous relationship with him a giant mistake that should not have happened, and how excited he is to begin our family once we are married. I'm honestly at a loss for this because I really want my son to be a part of my wedding, but I feel like I am at a crossroads. What should I do? I legitimately cannot believe that your fiance is acting like this. Your fiance, just to recap, wants to hide your son away so nobody else knows that you have a son already because he doesn't like the look of marrying a single mom. Well, guess what? That's exactly what you are. You have a 5-year-old kid and your fiance is actively telling you he does not want that a part of your special day, when in reality, your son absolutely should be there for the wedding. It is so disrespectful to yourself as well as your son to exclude him from the day that should be highly celebrated. And honestly, who cares who he's friends with? I don't care if the Pope is showing up to that wedding. You absolutely should have your 5-year-old son with you on this day. I mean, this guy's getting married to you and he's clearly ashamed that you're a single mom and that you have a 5-year-old kid. I'm honestly surprised that you would either want to get married to someone who feels this way about your son. And yeah, he's not outright saying that he doesn't like your 5-year-old kid, but he is actively trying to get you to not allow him at your wedding. Imagine trying to explain this to your son later in life when he's 16 years old and asking why you didn't want him at his wedding, as well as why his stepfather did not want him there at the wedding as well. You have a chance to stand up for your son and to be there in his corner. And in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, this wedding definitely would be delayed until we find some compromise where my son can be involved in my wedding. There's no way I would let that slide, and honestly, I hope you don't let that slide either, because you owe it to yourself as well as your son to have him involved. My boyfriend ghosted me after I went to a concert with my friends, and I'm not sure what to do. I already have a gut feeling of how this is going to end, but I need to hear from strangers on the internet. So myself as well as my boyfriend have been together for over a year now. We have had 2 apartments together and 3 cats. We've been good friends for 7 years as well before our relationship. Our relationship has been a bit of a roller coaster due to our mental health struggles, but we've always made things work in the end with love and understanding. This past weekend, we had bought tickets to go to a festival, but mine got canceled last minute. My boyfriend isn't the biggest fan of festivals, and the type of music at this festival is not his favorite either, because in his words, it's for girls to dance around undressed while being really inappropriate, and it's just a place for people to have an excuse to waste their life away. I've tried to explain to him time after time how it really isn't like that, and it's invalid since he's never actually been to a festival or let alone a concert in his life. He simply doesn't understand. But I managed to convince him to go, and we were excited all the way up until it got canceled. So instead, my friends and I planned to get tickets for a show for one night instead. He refused to go to that and has been extremely moody all week, accusing me of going to cheat on him and to dress really inappropriately just for attention. Literally anything harmful he could think of to try and make me not go, he basically said. We have no history of cheating, and I've only been to one show in our relationship, which again, he behaved towards me the same way, but not to this extreme. This is definitely new behavior. I went with my two best friends anyway, because I know I'm not doing anything wrong, and I wanted to have a fun night out and see my favorite artist. I promised not to partake in any substances, and to keep the drinking to a medium. I ended up only buying like 3 drinks over the night, so it wasn't even that bad. Since I left on Friday afternoon, I haven't heard from him since then. It is now Sunday, and I've texted him multiple times, giving my updates through the day. Also, he can be reassured that I'm safe, but I never got a reply to anything. No checking in, nothing, despite us constantly texting when we are apart. I ended up getting home on Saturday evening, and he's still not here. I'm assuming he's with family, but I honestly don't know where he is, and he's not answering my calls or my text messages. I heard from his mom that they're together, but that's it. I feel awful, angry, sad, lonely. I can't wrap my head around how he cares so little about me and is willing to ruin everything over going out for one night. My friend's theory is that he's cheating on me because of his suddenly random outbursts of accusing me and calling me names, and is using me going out to direct his insecurities onto me. But I really don't know. We are a great team and he's my best friend, but this is so out of character for him, and I'm really not sure what to do. He'll be home either tonight or tomorrow because he has work Monday, and I've no idea how this will end. What should I do? It is definitely really suspicious that your boyfriend suddenly drops off the face of the earth, all because you went out to a concert with your friends. And it's also really weird that he would accuse you of cheating when you've never had any history of cheating ever in your relationship. I certainly would not buy into what your friend is saying, where they are claiming that your boyfriend is somehow cheating on you because of the way he's acting. I personally would not jump to that conclusion without any kind of evidence, but it is definitely really concerning that he's showing this type of behavior. I mean, you said it best yourself. He's never acted like this, and you feel like you're a really good team. So why now would he suddenly ghost you, all because he went to a concert? I personally wonder if he has some kind of like vendetta against concerts or festivals. Like maybe he has some previous bad experience in a relationship, and he's worried that this is going to happen again. But even then, you've been together long enough where it's like, I mean, come on. We have to know each other and trust each other by this point, right? So I think if anything, you definitely need to talk to him about this and try and figure out what went wrong and why he's so upset. Because this is a really small thing. You went to see your favorite musical artist. It's not like you went and said, hey, I'm going to get with every guy that I see, because that's definitely not what happened. So hopefully this conversation goes well, and hopefully he's able to be reasonable about everything going on, because based on what you've described, he's done everything but that, and you definitely don't deserve that. My boyfriend's immaturity is causing a lot of damages in this relationship, and I'm not sure what to do. My boyfriend is the only child, and his parents never taught him responsibilities in his life. He was raised in a greenhouse environment, and his mom did everything for him. He wasn't even taught to pick up his own toys after playtime as a kid. He seemed like he had it all together with a good education, a good background, and a good job that pays decently well. I was in shock and experienced huge disappointment that he turned out the way he is. I didn't realize a lot of the things until he started to reveal them. His communication style is really bad. He tends to have a really bad temper or pull a temper tantrum rather than having a gracious conversation to compromise. I had to teach him to compromise and that not everything goes your way. He also doesn't like talking about his emotions or things that are related to our relationship. He is a poor communicator and is constantly keeping me out of the loop on things. His tactic is to avoid people and to avoid problems, all the way up until I start complaining about it, in which he then complains about it. He does these things all the time and it really upsets me. And when I would confront him and tell him that I am upset because of what he did, no matter what, it was simply wrong. He always has a problem accepting that he is wrong and to start another fight. He would want proof and to analyze the situation just so he can confirm and validate if he would agree that this would upset me. I would find myself explaining for hours to have him understand why he upset me, and all he has to do is simply admit it and apologize. But he would fight and even personally attack me. Things would even get so bad that he would only get apologetic until he realized that I had been crying for hours. And this is all after a very long and tiring conversation. What matters more to him is proving me that I should not be upset. It is pretty hurtful because he completely disregarded the fact that I was crying because of something that he did to me. Unfortunately, this has been a vicious cycle. Now, if I get upset at something he did, it is always a fight. Even if I come at this with a calm demeanor, I just try not to get upset, but it's always something that he can quickly invalidate. After a serious conversation I had with him about these problems, he did acknowledge he needs therapy. He doesn't want to truly grow up, and he has issues with society not labeling him as a responsible man. He simply doesn't like doing things that would label him as a grown man in society's eyes. If anything, it just agitates him. And even when it comes to responsibilities around the house, it is a huge deal that he has to share them and even be involved at all. We never have gracious conversations, and he says that he's constantly feeling attacked by me. And I have to admit, after spending so much time with him and trying to get to know him, as well as trying to help him understand where I'm coming from, even at a base level, is really starting to make me lose my patience. To this day, he still has not spoken to a therapist. It has been almost a year. I wasn't happy about it, and he was giving me excuses, stating that time was a big commitment for him. Therapy is not something he looks forward to, but I did not accept his excuses. What I pointed out was how he spent his time as well as his money prepaying and planning his snowboarding adventures in the winter, but not seriously seeking therapy or even having a plan to improve our relationship. I obviously had not been happy with him, and he is always angry and always gets upset with me. And no matter what, he always has to find a reason to blame me. And while he reconfirmed to me that he's going to start seeking therapy, in my opinion, this should have been done a lot sooner. I am very upset, and I'm incredibly hurt that he turned out this way, and I feel like this is really starting to depress me. What should I do? It honestly sounds like you're dating a 12-year-old. As a note, this man is 29 years old. How does someone get that far in life without having basic communication skills, with the baseline ability to at least talk, as well as some plan to take care of themselves? I mean, this is just unacceptable. No matter what you say or do, this man completely invalidates every experience you have, regardless of the context, and that is absolutely unfair. It looks like you're trying to do all the legwork when it comes to communicating, and he simply doesn't care at all. He is always going to try and find some way to invalidate you and to try and rationalize why you're upset. And it sounds like it's just a pride issue because he doesn't want to be proven wrong. Well, guess what? When you're in a relationship, you're not always going to be right. It's going to be compromises left and right, and you're going to work together for better goals between the two of you. That's just how it works. Sometimes you have to give some ground away, and that's okay because you love the other person. And I think the original poster, she's trying to do that, but her boyfriend is just incredibly immature. It's like this grown-up Peter Pan who never grew up, whose parents never disciplined him, and so his only way to react was to throw a temper tantrum. Like, how did he get this far with nobody correcting him? He's 29. So I wish you the best of luck in this relationship, because if I was in your shoes, I would have dumped this person like yesterday, because there's no way on earth I would be treated that way. And in my opinion, I think you could do so much better than this immature man who is constantly invalidating your feelings. My boyfriend of almost 5 years just confessed to cheating on me 4 years ago, and I don't know how to feel or what to do. I was spending the night at my boyfriend's house, and we were having drinks and having fun. We began talking about how our relationship used to be when it was just the first couple of years of officially dating. Our relationship used to be very rocky and definitely not what you would call a healthy relationship. We would fight over the smallest things. I was besties with my ex's boyfriends, and he would spend his free time with other girls. By the way, these girls were ones that he grew up with since elementary school and went to school with them all the way through high school, so it's not like he would be spending his time with random chicks. Long story short, we had no boundaries in place for each other, and we were pretty toxic and fought a lot. Years later, and now in college, we've matured a ton and have the healthiest and strongest relationship ever. While talking about it, he mentioned how crazy it was that I would spend time with my exes and go out with them while we were together. We laughed about it and joked about how terrible our relationship used to be. I asked him if he had ever done something like that too during that time, which is when he said yeah, but said he'd only tell me if I didn't get worked up over it since it was years ago. I reluctantly agreed. He ended up telling me that one night he was hanging out with my best friend at the time and she didn't have a ride home, so she insisted on spending the night at his house. Also, I'd like to mention that the day they were together, they were in a group of people until everyone left and she stayed behind. Anyways, she insisted on spending the night and that she'd have someone pick her up in the morning. He hesitantly agreed and told her to find somewhere to sleep, like on the couch or something. They never got along really well, so giving up his bed for her wasn't really in mind for him. She refused and jumped onto his bed and kept nudging him to join her. Long story short, he laid beside her, and while they were talking, she grabbed his hand and she suggested that she wanted to go further than just laying on the bed together, if you know what I mean. When she wanted to go further, he ended up refusing and admitted it was a mistake and that he couldn't do that to me. She also ended up agreeing and said it would be pretty messed up because me and her were really close. As if they didn't already do enough harm as it is. He still cuddled and fell asleep with her that night, and she left in the morning. He also mentioned that she'd always try to be very touchy with him, and that she would always joke around with him about wanting to spend some quality time with him, if you know what I mean. Also, I don't want to make this story seem like it's a one-sided issue, and like my boyfriend isn't in the wrong here either, because even though he may not have mentioned it, I'm smart enough to acknowledge that she wouldn't feel comfortable enough to act and talk like this if he didn't make her feel like it was okay, and that she would be able to do that. Immediately after being told this, I felt humiliated and disappointed more than anything. My friend was best friends with me all throughout high school. She was the friend I would say never backstabbed me or turned fake like a lot of the high school friends that I've had. We had a real bond and I loved her with all of my heart. We simply drifted apart after high school and talk every now and then. But hearing this was tough. In my head, they hated each other and always talked bad about each other to me. I feel lied to and embarrassed. Both my boyfriend and this friend have gone years pretending like nothing happened. What's worse is my boyfriend did this with her and still allowed me to get closer with her over the years. Someone who would easily lie and try to sleep with my boyfriend, even if they didn't end up doing that. And I don't know what to do. Years ago, we were different people, and I don't want to hold this against him, but it's really tough. What am I supposed to say the next time this friend reaches out to me? Should I hold my boyfriend accountable for cheating on me years ago? And while we were different people back then, should I just let it go? Since we are both so different now, what should I do? This is definitely a really messed up situation. Your boyfriend definitely went behind your back and spent time with this lady in a way that is very inappropriate, especially since he is still your boyfriend and was at the time. And bad enough, it's with your best friend. This is definitely something that needs to be addressed with your friend, if anything, just to cut them off. And you said it best. You and your boyfriend have grown up and have become very mature, and it sounds like your relationship now is very, very solid. But back then, things were definitely not as good. So if you did want to make it work, that's kind of where my headspace would be. On the other hand, he definitely was disloyal with you in spending time with this other girl. He went behind your back with your best friend, and I really think you need to remember that. This is absolutely not okay, and it's something that definitely needs to be figured out. So hopefully things work out for you, and hopefully you're able to find some kind of solution, because I can't imagine how frustrating and how heartbreaking it would be to find out that something happened 4 years ago. My fiance is constantly criticizing me, and I don't know what to do. The title says it all. My fiance is constantly criticizing me, and it's driving me bonkers. Everything about me or everything I do is fair game. For background, people usually describe me as a super nice guy with good vibes and always smiling. I'm relatively well liked by most people, and my personality type is really the life of the party, if you know what I mean. I've had several previous long-term relationships and have never felt like this before. I constantly feel like I'm messing things up or doing something wrong. For one, she criticizes my appearance constantly. Don't wear that. It makes you look even shorter than you already are. And this is all over a crewneck t-shirt. She has even asked me to wear lifts around her for photos, despite me telling her that it makes me feel badly, as well as the fact that she doesn't accept me for who I am. And despite all this, she still keeps doing it, criticizing my wardrobe, my style, my hair, basically everything. She is also always mad about everything with the house, and she will yell at me about the most ridiculous things. Why are you standing over there? Move. Or sometimes she'll say, why are you eating over there? The table looks more comfortable. She will literally yell at me about where I choose to stand, sit, which room I'm in, how I eat my food, how I'm cleaning things, etc. As a note, I'm a very clean and neat person, and have never ever had anyone critique so many little things like this. She'll put me down in front of her friends or even her family. She'll always make digs at how short I am, about how I'm apparently the worst storyteller, and about how I'm always late to things, to the point where even my own mother called to tell me she noticed it. She constantly asks me for help with no regard as to whether I'm busy or not, whether it's reviewing her social media posts or a text message from a coworker, as well as picking her outfit out or what to cook. Sometimes I'll spend hours at a time simply helping her out. For example, I recently got a new job and went through the interview process for many positions. I left mine and at the same time bought a new house. She didn't once offer to help, and in fact at one point told me, "Shut up about this already," all because I was asking for advice. When I confronted her about this, she seemed sorry and only then tried to listen. She offered no help when I was moving and even sent packages to my new place early and got mad at me when I didn't return her dresses to Amazon fast enough. However, when it came time for her to look for a job, I was actually able to connect her with what ultimately ended up being her position via a friend of mine. And I even helped her compose emails to the recruiters, coached her through the interview, and advised her on how to navigate it. For reference, I work more hours than her, I make 5 times her salary, and have many any outside of work responsibilities, but I never once give her pushback. It's always towards me. I'm so lost at this and I really don't know what to do. If my significant other treated me like that, I would not be with them at all. This honestly sounds utterly exhausting. I mean, this lady is absolutely putting you second, if not completely last. This does not sound like a good match to me. There's no respect for you, and she keeps putting you down in front of other people. And it's not like other people are not noticing. Your mom called it out immediately. I would take a good hard look at this relationship because this sounds incredibly toxic. This does not sound like a good relationship, but in all actuality, it sounds like an abusive one. You can do so much better than this, and you can find someone who's not going to put you down at the drop of a hat. You make a lot of money and you have your own house, and it sounds like this lady is absolutely taking advantage of you. She does not help you with anything, but in turn expects you to drop everything just to help her. And that does not sound cohesive or in any way complimentary to both of you. If anything, it seems like she's just using you. So if you do decide to stick with this relationship, which personally I would have been out of there a long time ago, I wish you the best of luck because I don't see this changing anytime soon. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description. And the next time you live stream, use the Cream of the Crop music. Search Cream of the Stream on Spotify or whatever platform you use for copyright-free music to use for your next stream.